this is an extremely difficult time in this country, and it's difficult for our politics, our politicians, and our political institutions. You don't have to tell me that politicians are unpopular these days. The president's job approval is down somewhere between 39 and 45% in most polls. Congress's job approval is anywhere from 10% to 20%, depending upon what poll you look at. If you look at confidence in our political institutions, I saw some polling the other day. Confidence in government in Washington to solve the nation's economic problems. This is, if you could see this, you would like it. January of 2002, I have a lot of confidence in government in Washington's ability to solve economic problems. January of 2002, 63% of Americans said a lot. 63, almost 2 out of 3 Americans said they had a lot of confidence in government in Washington. September 2002, it was down to 58. October 2010, it was down to 47. And in August of 2011, 26% of Americans said that they had a lot of confidence in government in Washington to solve their economic problems. We have a structural problem now. What we have is a system in Washington that was designed for checks and balances. So you have a House and the Senate, you have the legislative branch divided, and then you have an executive, a separate executive branch. And often we assume that one party would control either one chamber or the legislative, and the other party would control the executive, and that was good, we thought. We thought, oh, that's dandy, because that way we have checks and balances and nobody rams through anything in the system, and you need some sort of consensus, some sort of cooperation, some sort of compromise to get things done. Isn't that great? Most of us still think compromise is a good thing. I understand that there's a huge chunk in the country that no longer thinks that, they think compromise is a 4-letter word. So we have that structure. That's how the government is ordered, organized, structured. But now we have political parties that are what political scientist Norm Ornstein told me the other day, and I thought he was correct. I liked the way he phrased this. He said, we now have parliamentary parties. We have European parties, which exist fine in a parliamentary system where the executive comes out of the legislative, and so in the House of Commons, who's ever in the majority becomes selects the prime minister, and you have the executive branch and the legislative branch in the same party, and the executive branch proposes, and their majority disposes, and you can get things done. We don't have that now. We now have increasingly ideological parties. So we have a liberal party and a conservative party.
Well, you know, at the local level, we can't predict. It used to be you could sort of predict the federal government grants. They were way in advance. You sort of knew. But on March 28th, when the Republicans almost shut down the government, I'm a Democrat, we suddenly lost the mayor's summer youth job programs. And that was 700 jobs in my community that we've been probably getting since the 60s. And at the state level, I have my former mayor and current governor trying to eliminate the redevelopment agency. So as far as we're concerned, the feds in the states are both crazy. And they're literally taking our lunch, and they're taking away things that we've come to count on. And so I have to say, you know, I beat somebody unconventionally. I spent within the cap of $380,000, beat the Senate Pro Tem of California, whose campaign probably spent over $2 million by doing grassroots campaigns and by talking to my constituents. And so at the local level, I'm just talking to my constituents because I'm not expecting a lot of help either from Washington. I think we're very lucky. I probably shouldn't say that. I'm probably likely to get a couple of the stimulus grants we have. I'm very likely to get a police grant, et cetera. But that's not what I can count on. And the other federal funding I can't count on. For many years, we were supplementing under the Bush administration Head Start because I'm a former school board member and because a lot of you believe that if we're going to break these cycles of poverty, that you have to start very, very early. So I think local government ends up getting grown up in this situation. We can't do the flavor of the week in rhetoric. We have to provide basic services. People notice when their potholes aren't filled, when children are being murdered, and when their schools don't work. So for me, it's making us at the local level rely on each other a lot more.